Guys, Caleb's Cards here, coming at you with another video covering some World War II veterans autographs that I received through the mail a few months ago from Scott Masters. He wrote these veterans or interviewed them, uh, either did phone interviews or Zoom interviews with them, and just asked if they would send some signed letters to me if they had the time, and I was able to supply with some stamps and things, and just help them out with finding some veterans also to contact for interviews and also to write to. And he just said he would do this, so it's been really awesome to hear back from a lot of, especially Canadian veterans, people that probably wouldn't have a chance to get otherwise. But it's been really cool to read through their stories and read through them again with you. So the last couple Wednesdays here, we have been covering and trying to get caught up. There's still quite a few left. So this is episode number 3, in 2023, I believe. So the first 3 in 2023 I've been doing. But I have 3 veterans autographs here that I can share with you and read their stories. So I hope you will stay and listen to them. Also, as always, the links will be down below to Scott Masters' website, as well as the Veterans Breakfast Club, who I met Scott through. So if you wanted to learn more about him and what he does, you can definitely go follow those down below. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So Mr. Jeff Little. I did try to go into my camera settings. It does not have a setting to reverse the mirror effect. So I'll have to see if maybe there's an app out there or something that might do that. I have no idea. Or I'll try and see if um, Wondershare my Wondershare for more of my film editing kind of thing that I don't know much how to do on, but I have it. To see if maybe there's a way to do it on there as well. But I will include some pictures at the end so you can take a look. But Jeff Little was born February 8th, 1922 in Hundred, West Virginia. He grew up on a farm in a large family of 13 children in total, where Jeff was the oldest. Times were difficult for them as the Great Depression began to intensify. Jeff left school after grade 8 and he worked to support the family, eventually taking on work with the Civilian Conservation Corps, or the CCC. And heading out west to Las Vegas, the work in the CCC was hard. Jeff and the other men created fire trails and prepared cattle grazing land, all in the intense desert heat. By then, the war was underway, and many men were joining up. Jeff did war work for a time, and then in the wake of Pearl Harbor, he and 2 friends decided to join up themselves, opting for the Navy. Training ensued at the Great Lakes Naval Station, followed by development to Norfolk or deployment to Norfolk, and not long after that Jeff was assigned to the USS Multiplier, a cruiser bound for the Pacific. They sailed to the Solomon Islands, where they supported the Marines' island hopping campaign, and they interdicted Japanese supply lines through the region. As such, Jeff was thrust into the front lines of naval combat right away, and he and his crewmates played a critical role on the 40mm anti-aircraft guns. As the campaign moved north, the Multiplier was at the center of many battles from Guadalcanal to Rabaul to Saipan and Tinian. Jeff would experience the full intensity of the Pacific War along the way. By war's end, the Multiplier was patrolling the seas around Japan itself, and that's where Jeff learned of the atomic bombs and the surrender. The ship went into Nagasaki not too long after they set sail across the Pacific, en route to San Diego and then New York. Now discharged, Jeff boarded a train and headed back to West Virginia, arriving the day before Christmas 1945. Like the other returning men, Jeff found work, and a few years later he was married, finding his way to the rhythms of post-war American life. Again, there's pictures and pictures of his unit, his ship, and him today. There is the signature. It's very cool. Very great signature as well. So that is Mr. Jeff Little. Next up, we have a tail gunner, Ronald Moyes. He was also known as Shorty. Here's his photo, and he actually has about a page and a quarter there. So he was born February 11th, 1926. More than 10,000 Canadians were killed on bombing missions over Europe during the Second World War. The Bomber Command Museum of Canada in Nanton, uh, Alta, can't remember where that is in Canada, estimates that over the course of the war, for every 100 airmen who joined Bomber Command 485 were killed. 6 were wounded, and 8 became prisoners of war. Moyes and his 6-man crew were among the lucky 41% who came home unscathed, at least physically. They would remain bonded for the rest of their lives. Moyes was only 17 when he convinced his parents to give their consent for him to enlist in the Royal Canadian Air Force in 1943. His older brother, Horace, was already overseas, and Moyes learned the fastest way to join him was to train as an air gunner. He didn't realize air gunners had the highest casualty rates. He arrived in Liverpool in May 1943 and was assigned to 429 Bison Squadron, based in RAF Leeming in northern England near the city of York. Moyes, nicknamed Shorty by his crewmates, was a rear gunner on a 4-engine Halifax bomber. The crew flew its first operation on November 16, 1944, on a daylight raid to an oil refinery in the German city of Jülich. From his lonely post in his rear turret, Moyes watched for enemy fighters and tried to keep warm. Gunners removed the perspex covering of the turret in order to see better, leaving them completely exposed to the negative 50 degrees Celsius temperature at 17,000 feet altitude. That trip was uneventful, but other times the crew wasn't so lucky. In a memoir he wrote of his experience titled Coming Home on a Wing and a Prayer, Moyes describes being pounded by anti-aircraft flak, buffeted by the concussion of exploding bombs, and being hunted by deadly German night fighters. Just as scary were the night stories when hundreds of aircraft lumbered into the air within minutes of each other, completely blacked out and invisible in the darkness. Collisions were common. Moyes described his plane being hit by shrapnel. It sounded like someone throwing rocks at the aircraft, and the ever-present danger of being obliterated by a bomb dropped from an aircraft flying at a higher altitude. Once they were over, coned by ground-based searchlights, lit up as a target for anti-aircraft gunners and night fighters. The pilot sent the bomber into a stomach-turning corkscrew dive to escape. Later in the war, after proving their experience in bombing accuracy, the crew was transferred to 405 Pathfinder Squadron, dropping flares to guide other bombers to the target. Moyes' last operation was to the town of Berchtesgaden on the German-Austrian border, site of Adolf Hitler's infamous Eagle's Nest hideout on which American troops were advancing. But Moyes' squadron wasn't finished. They'd fly more missions, bringing freed prisoners of war back to England and dropping food and supplies to starving civilians in the Netherlands. Moyes rejoined the Air Force after the war, serving in Canada and Europe with NATO until 1974. After that, he joined the RCMP, working in the firearms section of the crime lab until his retirement in 1989. So he had a long career. So again, there's some more of his pictures. And there's his signature and a little note that all the best, Caleb. And he did include a photo of his plane, a little scale model of that plane that he would have been in. So he would have been that, he was at the rear, I believe is what he said. So that very back one right there. And then he did include an extra letter. I just want to cover up his address and email and personal phone number. But I'll save that as personal because he does have some personal information on that one. So very cool. And finally, we have Mr. Ben Burston. So Mr. Ben Burston was born November 29th, 1924 in Kielce, Poland. Ben's parents made the decision to immigrate to Canada to escape anti-Semitism and to find better economic opportunities. They settled in downtown Toronto in the Kensington Market neighborhood. Ben's mother died when he was quite young, so he was raised by his father in an observant Jewish family. Ben attended school and did all the normal things for a boy growing up against a backdrop of the Great Depression. He also was attracted to Zionism, joining the Hashemir Hatzir youth movement, The events in the 1930s were confirming the fears of that group. By the start of the war, Ben was in high school, first Harvard Collegiate and then Central Tech, and he had seen his older brother and stepbrother join the armed forces. His call-up eventually came as well, and Ben reported for duty at the Horse Palace, and subsequently to Nova Scotia for basic and advanced training. He was shipped overseas late in 1944, and after a brief time in England, he found himself in Belgium, moving closer to the front. At this time, he was assigned to the Queen's Own Rifles, and they moved back and forth on the northern front into Germany and the Netherlands on both sides of the Rhine. Most of the time they were clearing areas, and on the Netherlands on both, most of the time they were clearing areas, and on one occasion Ben was trapped in the open and was shot in the leg. He learned later that many of the men in his section were killed that day. Ben was left alone in a house, and he and many of the others were taken prisoner by the Germans. After interrogation, he was put in POW hospital and treated by British medical staff who had been taken prisoner at Arnhem. Just over a week later, the Canadians came through the area and liberated them. Ben was returned to England where he recuperated in a hospital. VE Day came during that time, so Ben was able to visit England a bit. He took the opportunity to reconnect with Hashemir Hatzair, and he met a young woman and decided to marry. The two of them returned to Canada, but from there they made the decision to head to Palestine and to take part in the foundation of Israel, finding their way in the post-war rhythms where they eventually back in Canada. He says, "Dear Mr. Craig, your good friend Scott Masters has asked me to send you this very fine example of the uh, book he is writing. Uh, do so with my best regards, Ben Purston." Very cool. And I think I've seen that photo before in the newspapers. I believe that's a pretty famous photo right there. So that's pretty cool. That's him. Wow. So yeah, lots of awesome World War II veterans right there, and their information and their stories. And that's what I like to do in these videos and preserve them, hopefully, and preserve them with you, being able to sit here and listen to them and watch. And I really appreciate you guys taking time to watch this video with me and learn about their stories. I hope if you get the chance to write a veteran or even just thank them for your service when you see them, it definitely goes a long way, and I'm sure it means a lot to them. So again, thank you for your service for Mr. Burston, uh, Mr. Moise, and Mr. Little. So really awesome. Still got quite a few letters left to read and go over with you, and even sometimes a few come in over the days every now and then. So definitely appreciate Scott doing that and reaching out to them, and appreciate Todd from Veterans Breakfast Club for getting me in contact with them, as well as inviting me to watch the show. You can definitely watch the live streams they do either on YouTube, on Zoom, on Facebook, wherever, whatever platform you may have. They're most likely they're on it. So again, make sure you go check out the links down below in the description box. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.